athlete looking to get started with good quality, consistent training, there's 3 movements that you absolutely have to be able to master. I'm going to go over them today. So today we are going to be going over the goblet squat, the push-up, and the pull-up. And for me, this is irrespective of what sport you play. If you do not have the ability to do these 3 movements well, you're going to be leaving a lot on the table in terms of an athletic development standpoint. So before we jump into these movements, what we really want to talk about more than anything, whenever we're looking at someone that has either a low training age, meaning they have not really had a lot of good exposure to good quality training, or someone that is the kind of like youth, adolescent age, we want to make sure that they have a good base of GPP. So GPP is general physical preparedness. And really what that means more than anything is we're developing good motor patterns, body awareness, capacity, and the ability to perform basic body weight and other weighted movements without any, really without any issues. Certainly don't want any pain, but also we don't necessarily want any massive faults that we're seeing here. A side note to this is these are 3 movements that, regardless of what body part I'm treating from a rehab standpoint, I will make sure that we start to implement these in rehab at some point. That's how strongly I feel about the ability to do these movements correctly. So the first thing is the goblet squat. The reason we do the goblet squat is because it naturally, is before we do a trap bar, before we do a barbell, anything like that, the goblet squat is naturally going to teach you the position that you want to be in to squat at an appropriate depth. So a lot of times when we have people squat, what we see more than anything is we see them either shifted way back on their heels as they get down here and they're collapsed forward. The goblet squat naturally is going to put you in a good position. So I have a dumbbell here. A kettlebell is going to work better holding around the horns, but for right now I have a dumbbell. So what's going to look like, you're going to hold it right in front of your chest like so, okay? So when we get down to that goblet squat position, I want you thinking about your elbows are right along the inside of your knees. That's kind of that good tracking position. So you're going to be here, you're going to go down, and you're going to be in this position here. So you can see I have a decent amount of knee bend. I'm in my hips well. I have a pretty upright chest here, and I'm in a good really position because that dumbbell forced me to be there. And then I'm going to stand up. So again, I might get down there let's say from a warm-up standpoint. I'm going to kind of get down there. I'm going to hang out there, keep good tension, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, find some areas that, hey, it's a little stiffer than others, and then I'm going to go ahead and come up. From a warm-up standpoint, I might do maybe 10 through the range, and then you really can then scale this to your lift. So whether it is, hey, it is goblets are part of your warm-up or goblets are part of like your main lift or circuit. There's a lot that you could do with it and taking that simple movement and scaling it and progressing it in different ways. So that's our goblet squat. So up next, we have our push-up. I'm going to show you what I see every young athlete, someone that doesn't have exposure to push-ups, what they do and what it looks like. And that is, they're here, they're flared out, they're coming down, and then they're coming up like that. So the problem here is there's absolutely no core stability more than anything. They might have the upper body strength, and they just use their upper body versus their core, or if they don't have great upper body strength and they don't have great core strength and endurance, they're naturally not going to be able to do it. So we start with just a plank more than anything. So if we can teach someone how to plank well for, say, 30, 45 seconds to a minute, they'll be able to have a better ability to do the push-up. So what does a good plank look like? Feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. You're pressed forward here, hands on your shoulders. My quads are squeezed so my knees are straight. Glutes are squeezed so my hips are tucked underneath me here, and my core is engaged. And that is our plank position, okay? So from a push-up standpoint, we come down, our chest touches, and we're up. What I don't want is as we're coming down, like our hips should never be the first thing to touch, and then our chest, okay? Really, our kind of hips should not really necessarily be touching the ground. It should be able to be chest down to the ground. If you struggle with a push-up, there's a couple ways you can go about it. You can go from a knee, which when you're first learning, that is okay to do, or you could tempo it or do different positions. So I kind of like to go like 3-position push-ups at first. So what you can do, you go the first third of the movement, you're just here and up, maybe halfway, up, just below or just above, you touch the deck, your chest touches the deck, and you're back up, and the final progression is chest down to the ground. So there's a lot of ways you can go ahead and scale that. For those that don't have great training, age, or really exposure to this, it's going to take time for them to be able to do a good amount of consecutive push-ups. What I tell everyone is just start with like 10 to 15 push-ups every day. The more you do that, the more you grease that groove, which is a term I've come to really like, the more you grease that groove, the better you're going to get over time just developing that awareness and that strength, okay? So last is the pull-up, probably the most challenging of these movements. From a pull-up standpoint, yes, we want to be able to get to the point where you're kind of pulling up or a chin up or whatnot, but I really want to make sure we'll be able to create good tension on the pull-up bar or the rig, without kind of falling into it. So what I don't want is I don't want us kind of being in this like kind of fall through like dead hang position here. What you really want more than anything, and you can have your feet on the ground or on a box to start if needed, you're thinking about kind of pulling yourself into the pull-up bar, okay? So my chest is almost like pointed up towards the ceiling a little bit. I'm not collapsed through like that, okay? So what that might look like for someone that can't do a pull-up right away, we might just literally do some drills in that position. So we're going to get in this position here. We might do just some knee tucks, okay? Some knee tucks, then maybe some alternating one leg at a time or double leg. And then eventually we work to the point where we get into a pull-up and then come back down. Now, from a pull-up standpoint, I don't have a long enough band here, but what you can do is a banded pull-up for assist, where you loop a band around, you step in the middle of it, and the band helps you come up. The other option to do is almost essentially a jumping pull-up, where you're here, you have a little bit of a jump to pull up, and then you slow it on the way down. So those are a couple ways that we go about scaling those three movements. Again, regardless of where you are at in your athletic career, especially if you are young and have a low training age, you have to be able to master these movements. You can pick one of those, do a little bit of them every day for, say, 2 weeks, then you do another one of those a little bit every time for 2 weeks. You kind of keep, those three you can kind of keep circling. You got 6 weeks right there of 2 weeks of doing push-ups, some type of push-up every day, some type of pull-up every day, some type of goblet squat every day. There's a lot of ways you can go about that. But again, if you are a young athlete that is looking to start training, or you don't have much training age or exposure, you have to find a way to master these three movements. If you do that, you will be setting yourself up for success from a long-term athletic development standpoint and the subsequent blocks from a strength, power, and speed development standpoint.